Guess who's back? Happy
again.
Friday. I always love a good rap lyric to start out your Friday morning.
That's how I started.
The reason I lean forward like that, I have to hit a couple of buttons that optimize the sound because I'm like an engineer of our newscast.
You are the engineer, but you have nice long arms.
That's true.
I have T-Rex arms.
I have good selfie arms.
You do have good selfie arms. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I am Amanda Goodman.
And I'm Tara Thomas. We were just talking about, as many of you can relate, the young children in our lives, her life, already picking out their Christmas wish list items. So the difference between, kids years ago looking in like the JCPenney catalog, now kids are so, I think, brand oriented because of all the social media influence.
Well, this is what's interesting. It's very, Luciana is 9. So she's one of my middle ones. So she went from playing with slime and Legos to all of a sudden wanting skincare that's more expensive than my skincare. And, but she was very innovative this year because we got the Amazon catalog is hitting everyone's mailbox. And so she has cut out the pictures and just thrown the pictures in. And for me, being like a news girl and a very image kind of person, I'm like, this is kind of cool. So now I can just look at the, so she gave me a basket of all the things, and we're just done with, Santa is done with giving all of the, big Christmases with all of the things that kids may play with for possibly a combined 15 hours. So it's, we're trying to go for experiences and all that stuff, but
it's incredible how the way, the influence that we didn't anticipate of social media on the material drive, because it's like TikTok, the ultimate in oversaturation of advertising.
If it's on TikTok, but this is the problem with TikTok. TikTok works with the kids, so you can have all these paid influencers doing all of these things because kids will buy in. When I'm watching TikTok, I'm thinking, okay, are you just a paid influencer or do you really believe in this product? So
yeah, and years ago, think about it. When we watched the Saturday morning cartoons, that was probably the only time in our week when we were bombarded with the images of My Little Ponies and Care Bears. In my case,
a Care Bear. Care Bears were the stuff and I can hear the song My Little Pony.
Remember when you unboxed that first Cabbage Patch doll? And you smelled the baby powder scent.
Yes.
We can now smell baby powder and it takes us back to those Cabbage Patch days.
Anybody who is our age or a little older will remember this. My mom went straight hood and got into fights with women for the Cabbage Patch dolls because this is when you had to line up at the store at 5:00 in the morning and then they opened those doors and everyone rushed and what was ever on the shelf, what was it? My mom thugged out and fought. So I have to remember that. Much props to her because
we had a toy store. I don't know if it was a chain, and it was called Children's Palace. Mm-hmm. It had toys ceiling to floor. It was like Toys R Us on steroids.
Oh, okay.
And this was in my hometown of Peoria, Illinois. My mom made it. Her number was called in the lottery. And she made it to the back storage room where she went behind the green curtain of Cabbage Patch dolls awaited. And that was a big deal. Winning that, getting your number picked to go pick out a Cabbage Patch doll. It was like winning the real lottery back in those days.
Well, I will tell you, and I don't know if I've shared this. So, Aria, who's my youngest, her 7th birthday was recently. She wanted an American Girl doll. This is not my first time at the rodeo. I'm not doing it. I love American Girl dolls. They're wonderful. Not paying $150 because I know in less than 2 days, that girl is going to have her hair cut that I look like in the 80s. She's going to have makeup. I'm not doing it. So there is one of the big box retailers that has a lot of red in it has dolls that are so similar that are probably for $25.
Yeah.
And she had no idea. So stop putting pressure on yourself at home if you're buying. These kids don't need these name brand things. Unless you have a teenager and then they'll check you. But the young kids, they don't need, it's crazy to me, but it's the pressure of.
100% pressure. And it's stressful on parents, and that's parents who can even afford to buy for their kids. So it's insanity. We have to mention since we connected with you last, we've had 2 incredible shows. This past Saturday, the Mississippi Moon Bar, which is this spacious lounge inside the Diamond Joe Casino in Dubuque. And you talk about an incredible ambiance. And the fun, exciting part for me was that my daughter Charlotte, who's in college, she flew home and we were able to surprise her Nana, my mom, and my niece. And they had no clue Charlotte was here. And so we literally walked up to them on the street in Galena and surprised them. My sister, Ava, is my niece, and her mom, Sarah, my sister, knew that Charlotte was coming. So it was so great because we had conspired to surprise my niece and my mom. And
great video.
The video was fun. And it's like, great. Well, and it's so special too, because in the case of Charlotte being away for her, first semester, in my mom's mind, she didn't think she would see her until later. Actually, next week, we're going to be going to Parents Weekend. My mom's going with me. So,
and this is good. You've seen Charlotte,
oh my gosh,
a lot.
I've seen her for the wedding, her trip home, now for Parents Weekend. So it's like,
well, technically she's been home.
Yeah,
you haven't technically seen,
right?
Because she's a college girl.
Yeah.
So this is exciting.
So we're excited. And then, oh my gosh, Wednesday night, Arlington, Iowa. You guys brought the support and empathy. I mean, when you look out over the crowd, in this case in Arlington, because it was pretty well lit, we could see everybody's reactions and faces. And that was the one thing you said was harder for you when we were in that like Vegas lounge setting in Dubuque. You couldn't see the faces.
Well, there are people who don't like me. So I like to see who's in the crowd. It's the Sicilian in me too, right? So when I walk into a room, I have to like survey the whole room to see who's in the room. I never sit with my back to the door. It's a whole thing. So when I'm looking out into the crowd and I couldn't see anybody because it was dark, and then you can't interact, and then you're thinking, are my jokes,
are they landing?
Are they landing?
Yeah, that's true. And now we sort of we have a flavor for how those stand-up comedians, when they're in those dark spaces and they're on stage, I get why they target the people in the front tables, because they can actually see them. And so you feed off of that interaction. But the thing about Arlington, I was very touched, I think, by just feeling that people were really connecting with me, talking about my mom being a caregiver and then my dad, dealing with Lewy body dementia. Since that show, it's just amazing how these God winks happen, if that's what you think of them as, where it can't be by chance, or coincidence. It's like, since that show, I ran into a person who lives or has family in Arlington, who's local to the Cedar Valley. She said she talked with people from the show, and there were people there who they lost the father in February to pancreatic cancer. Another woman was there. She had been a caregiver for her husband, who struggled with and passed on from ALS. I mean, and you just are blown away when it's kind of like the theory and the phenomenon where you buy a new car, and then everywhere you go, you've never noticed that make or model, and now you see it all the time.
Yeah.
When you go through tragedy and you deal with that, it's like God now has brought to life all of these people that I connect with because they've suffered a similar fate. And I think what's so empowering about that is just knowing that they're not alone, but then also showing up to something where our Faith in 4-letter word show in many ways is entertainment, and it's in jest. And then when they tell, as this woman related to me, she didn't go to the show, her family members and friends did. And so she was like, they told me they were crying. And I was like, what? Why were you crying? I mean, because they think that on the outside looking in, we might just have this like shallow level, like fun-filled show like Tamra and Vicky and
the Tres
Amigas.
Yeah. The Tres Amigas.
When in fact, we bring a lot more depth and breadth to the table.
We're very intelligent ladies sitting here. No, it's funny, like I'm so proud of it. And I used to apologize for saying that because I felt like that was egotistical, but I am very proud of it because we're finally comfortable using our voice and sharing the truth, not my truth. There's no such thing as my truth. Like the truth of what happened. And it's genuine and it's authentic, and I'm proud of it. You know, this week after one of the shows, I had gotten a message, and this woman said, because I always say in the show, and I've posted it, you know, on this social media page, when you get through the fire, you go bring a bucket of water back for the next woman. And a woman was very candid with me. She was like, I get it. She was like, but do you empower the women that you don't like? Because surely you don't like everybody. And I do not. I'm not going to sit here, because if you're everyone's friend, you're no one's friend. Right. And there are people who I don't like, people who have done me very, very wrong. And you know, some of these people that I'm talking about. But I do empower them. And she said, how do you empower them? And I'm like, well, I'm not standing on the street talking about how wonderful they are. That's certainly not, but I'm not sharing my side of the story.
Right.
That's how you empower people that you don't like. So when people are out there trashing your name, sharing a narrative that is, I mean, you know the one that I'm thinking of. I mean, it's kind of like New York Times bestseller. Some of the nuggets are so good. I'm like, wow, did I do that actually? So you empower the people you don't like by just staying silent, letting them share their version, and just, that's your free pass. And that's how you're going to empower them. It's just like, okay, sounds good. And so when I hear things about people say to me, and that's my response now, I used to get very defensive. I'm a very confrontational person. I do not shy away from it. But the older I've gotten, and I'll hear like, so-and-so had said this about you. I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm like, okay, cool.
Well, and it's very, what's the word? Like serendipitous is what I was thinking of to say what you said there, because when I was driving here this morning, I was put to our temporary studio. I was listening to, and I do daily, this YouVersion Bible app devotional. And so in the devotional, they have different elements of sharing a verse. And then there's an audio video clip where somebody is expounding on expounding, I think is correct, on the verse of the day. Well, today's verse was specifically talking about the people who are living an abundant life are those who are dealing with challenges and struggles. And the context is simply this: if everything is going so well that your cup is overflowing and you're filled with abundance, you're not in a space and place of being able to feel needy. And the neediness, those who are struggling with, I need support, this problem, this valley I'm in is greater than what I can sustain. So those people are truly turning to God, and thereby living the good life, because they are turning over all of their insurmountable obstacles and trusting Him, not saying, I'm going to fight back, I'm going to avenge myself, and I'm going to, as she described, get revenge. So,
right. Vengeance is mine, right?
So there is a maturity that comes with not lashing out. And in our culture, it is very hard to overcome that, because everybody says, and we're guilty of this, stand up for yourself, use your voice. And so now by default, we're all, if we're, middle-aged or older white women, we're all a bunch of Karens. And I've been called a Karen. In a youth basketball tournament where a parent was belligerent, I later told the coach, you need to get control of that parent, because he was demoralizing to the kids. He was laughing at the kids when they missed a free throw shot, and in a pretty quiet gym, screaming out, foul him again, he's going to miss every shot, one of my son's teammates. And it was like, we were shell shocked at the audacity of this coach, or this parent, to a male parent, so a father, to attack kids. So I made the comment on the way out when I saw the coach and his wife, something to the effect of, you need to get control of your parent. And the coach's wife, she just jumped in and was like, okay, Karen. And then I actually I said, yeah, I am a Karen today, and I'm proud of it. I was proud of it.
No, I would have been, taken off the hoops. But
you've had your share of craziness on the youth sports scene.
Well, and I believe we posted about the let them mantra, right? And I have it tattooed on my body, let them. If people let them gossip about you, what? Not anywhere on my arm.
It's like
sicko. That's what my husband said the other day. I said, his birthday's coming up, and I said, you know, do you want to finish your sleeve, your tattoo? And I was like, do you want to get my face? He's like, yeah, on my backside. Like, no, like I'm not getting your face. I'm like, okay, sure. But I'm all about this, but I want people to understand this, and I want to explain, and it's okay if you feel this way too. Just because I come in peace does not mean that I am not prepared for war. So because I'm in my peaceful era and my let them era does not mean that I'm going to let anybody get comfortable being disrespectful to me or my family. Ever. The difference is between me and the people who continue to run their mouth is that they're going and telling the story to everybody. I'm just direct. Like, I'm going to come right to the source.
Yeah. And
it will be uncomfortable for you. Like, not for me. Well, like, it's just, I was in a situation recently where I was sitting near someone, was talking to someone, and they brought up this other person's name who has been all these things. And I'm sitting here talking to a woman that this other person has dragged through the mud and said all these things. And I'm sitting there thinking, but I'm just not messy like that. Because it doesn't matter if
like
a friend has
accusing you of doing something where
they're doing
the
it,
same behavior.
Right? So, and this is the thing. It doesn't matter if, you know, first of all, any friend who's turned into an enemy has been hating you since day one. They've been an enemy since day one, right? Because your friends do not turn into enemies. It doesn't matter what you say to me. If you come to me in confidence, not even in confidence, if you are my friend and you're telling me something, or even if you're not my friend, if you're my adversary, and you say something to me, it's between me and you. I'm never going to use it against you. I'm never going to throw it in your face because that's just gross behavior. I left that at the middle school lunch table, right? So that's not what I'm about. So the issue is when one person continues to talk about me and I'm not, this person just looks bad. And that's what they don't understand. Like, you look like an actual fool because you're grown. You continue to bring up my name. So it leads me to believe you continue to bring up my name because it makes you relevant. Well, you enjoy talking about me because you think it gives you relevance. You win. You win. Whatever story you want to make up about me, you win. I tapped out long time ago. Like, I'm just done.
But back to you saying, you know, you're going to be direct. They also know that about you. And so it's actually a slight bit of entertainment for them because they're like, I'm going to tell Amanda XYZ.
Are you?
I want to hear what she says. I want to know what she says because a lot of people are going to just be very shallow in their response and not kind of give people, you know, the hard, cold truth. And so I think that's what's good about it is by being honest and just saying, okay, this is the situation. Hopefully you can nip that in the bud a little bit.
Well, and the thing is you and I talk about in the show, the problem in society today, specifically with women, it's the reactor to the mess is always the one that has made the villain, right? We never talk about the person who comes in, disrupts the peace, makes the mess. They go away and then they play victim and it's like, oh, look how, listen, I'm letting you know. And I tell everybody this, I'm a bear. I'm a bear. So if you come into the woods and you smack a bear, you poke a bear, or you're trying to mock a bear, what's going to happen? Like, the bear's going to bite you. The bear's going to eat you. So, like, don't be surprised if you come in and attack my peace and you're coming, like, I'm a bear, so there's no surprise. So, that is always laughable, but it's so funny, my level of, I don't care. Like, it's just, okay, is that what you think of me? Okay, cool.
And it's freeing when you can get to that mental space. It's very freeing. And I was just talking to my mom about how the Golden Bachelorette, first of all, I'm not a huge Bachelorette fan. Never really have been. The season when Chris Soules, who's from Arlington, coincidentally.
That's right, he is from Arlington.
Levi told us that he still lives there, I believe. When when that season was on and we had that Iowa connection, my friend Barb would have some of us over to watch that weekly show, the installment, and I enjoyed that because, you know, it was just cool to watch it with other women. But then since then, I've never really watched it until the senior bachelors came on the scene because my mom had watched the original one, The Golden Bachelor, with, is it Jerry? He was the original.
I don't watch. Yeah, I'm not a.
And now this new season with Joan, it's incredible, the social experiment element of it. When you factor in the men, it's all men and Joan. the men, they are so supportive of one another. They become so close, and they are so, they aren't threatened by each other to the extent where when they start to get picked, when Joan starts to pick him off and doesn't give him a rose, they're in tears, not so much because Joan didn't choose them, because of how much they're going to miss the friendship and camaraderie that was forged with all the men.
Because it's a brotherhood. And somebody had just written this on our page the other day. They said, why do men, when men get older, they have a brotherhood?
Yeah.
But women still...
I mean, I was emotional watching Dan from Florida, who had to say goodbye because he said, I live alone. He's a widow, I think. Aww. Yeah. And he's or divorced, I think widow. And so then he was like, I'm really going to miss these guys. And here, all these other women, when they're historically on The Bachelor, they're crying because, he didn't pick me. And the men in this case are so much more stable that they're just feeling, that this is something where I'm going to miss out on all these friendships. And now they said, these guys are my brothers. And the contrast to that is women at any age, unfortunately, and this isn't necessarily the fault of women because men sometimes pit us against each other as we've experienced, but they just can't focus on the friendship. They're too worried about being slighted and competitive. And so that's what made it. But here's the twist on this Golden Bachelorette. All the men are in their 60s. And then my mom, who's 79, I just think we've laughed about that. I mean, if they're doing Golden Bachelorette in their 60s, you could easily live another 20, 25 years. Yeah, so I don't see that the Bachelorettes that are...
Didn't you tell me somebody on there was 55?
57 or something. Yeah, and I'm like...
Since when is that golden?
It's one of the former Bachelorette's dads. I think his name is Mark. He's one of the guys on there. He's from Louisiana.
Oh, okay. I
I'm telling you, you would love it because you like reality TV and you get sucked in, and it's actually hilarious.
I'm a Real Housewives.
Same.
I mean, I'm a Real Housewives, which is hilarious to me because none of them is a Real Housewives. And Love is Blind, which I was screaming at the TV. And that's why my husband will come in the room. He's like, you watch the dumbest
That's what
stuff.
Dave just said to me this week.
But you and I, we're in the mix.
Sucked into it.
Well, we get in the mix. And during the week, we need mindless television. So it's either I'm watching trashy reality or I'm watching, of course, Dateline in 2020 and all the things. What we were watching last night, and thank you for texting me, the Al Smith dinner
I had to
in New York
because
City.
You have such a personal connection to Cardinal Dolan.
So Cardinal Dolan, for those who are not Catholic, Cardinal Dolan is basically the Pope's right-hand man. He's the top Catholic in the United States. He's a New Yorker. He was coming to do a fundraiser in Eastern Iowa, and it happened to coincide. It was going to be my last interview. So I was emceeing this event where I had to get clearance, to be there. It was a very big thing. And I was emceeing, so I was going to have a one-on-one interview with Cardinal Dolan. And I was pregnant with Aria at the time. And I met him, and he blew me out of the water because I'm Catholic girl, went to Catholic school my whole life. And a lot of the priests were really formal. We had a couple priests growing up that were very, jovial, fun, He is such a New Yorker and just so real, and you almost forget. He's very raw and just compassionate and all these things. But I remember I was telling him, I said, you're my last interview. And he said to me, he was like, your soul's destined for more. I can feel it. So it's like God you know what I mean? It's the top Catholic.
How powerful.
It was, he and I have turned to him for advice over the years. We have forged, a friendship, and, he just tells it like it is. I mean, and he lets you be a flawed Catholic because he knows that I am. He knows that I'm a Catholic who uses the F word more than it's just, so last night was interesting. But the most interesting part about last night is that this is the first time since Walter Mondale that a candidate did not show up. So Vice President Harris did not attend this dinner that kind of turns into a roast pretty much. And, they said the last time that happened was Walter Mondale. And, he obviously lost in a landslide. So I know that Cardinal Dolan was outspoken about it prior, and he said, we hope she reconsiders. And so I thought that nudge, that kind of peer pressure, I thought that she would have shown up. I was hoping that both candidates would be there, but
I missed it. She did a pre-recorded segment.
Yes.
And then they had Trump in person. And then it was Jim Gaffigan, the comedian who introed him, which I missed the intro. But this was one funny part. Trump referenced the fact that Jim got to use a teleprompter.
Oh, that's funny.
And he had to go off of his notes. And so, but the thing that I love about that, and it's similar to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, it's the one time outside of like the State of the Union where you literally see in the shot two very adversarial figures in both parties. So here last night you had Donald Trump. He was speaking and basically, like she described, doing a roast. And then immediately to his left is Chuck Schumer. Right. And he's like, you know, trying to look pleasant, but at the same time, some of what former President Trump was saying, then Chuck was like, not only thinking, I can't laugh at this, I can't clap, but he even had to shake his head and tisk, tisk, tisk. And so it's just funny. And then in the back, you've got like Maria Bartiromo, Martha McCallum. I mean, so it's just interesting to see. It's funny for us because we relate to it. It's like when you see the news anchor out in the wild. Yeah. How they look.
It's like you're seeing your teacher in the mall. Yeah, like right, after like, oh my God.
Exactly.
But it was.
Martha looked a lot younger than she does.
Martha's in her 60s.
And that's how we can relate, because whenever people would see us in person, like, you look so much younger in person. Well, and that's, you know, you're not so like buttoned up.
She's talking about Martha McCallum from Fox News, who's actually, and she is a true journalist. She and Bill Hemmer, who both work for Fox, are two of my favorite, because they are journalists and they do stay middle of the road, kind of stick with it.
But she clapped last night while Trump was speaking. And so for certain jokes or certain things. And then I thought, well,
she just still does work for Fox. I mean, at the end of the day,
come on. It's sad because then I thought, I'm sure people are going to be like, oh my gosh. You know,
I mean, we all know, like, if you are more, you know, conservative, you're watching Fox. If you're not, you're watching MSNBC, CNN. The interesting thing is the cycle this week, Vice President Harris has went on Fox News and has gone on things.
And Brett Baer.
Right. And this is what I'm surprised at. Like, and I want to ask you. So I want to know what we would ask as middle of the road journalists. What would you ask these two candidates? Because I know what I would ask Vice President Harris that no one is asking her yet, but everybody is talking about it. Vice President Harris, how do you, like, let's talk about these allegations against your husband. You're a woman, you're pro-woman, and there are allegations against your husband that he has been physically violent with, you know, women in his past. You know, what do you say to that? Nobody is asking that question. And I'd like to see it. Like, I want to hear, because I feel like we're giving people free passes. It's the same as, you know, I would ask Donald Trump, you know, tell me, are you anti-woman? Well, are you anti-woman? Like,
and this is how times have changed. So first of all, it's interesting you bring that up, because that is the real straw that broke the camel's back when you interviewed then presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, because as you talk about in our show, you wanted to not be controlled insofar as, you know, you didn't want to have everything pre-scripted and pre-approved. And so by delving into some of those questions that were obviously on everybody's mind at that time, from her past circumstances where her husband allegedly cheated and all the things, it's not out of bounds, if you will, to bring that up, because you're absolutely right. Like, somebody's personal life
it bleeds over,
is completely merged with their professional life when you're a public figure. Now, we talk about this. That's not to say that he or she is a good or bad candidate because of things in some respects that are out of their control. And I'll admit, I was a Bill Clinton fan. I thought he had a lot of great decisions as president, even though I didn't agree with some of his choices in his personal life. And so I think for me, there is that separation of one's ability to lead in contrast to something that's, you know, stupid, or in his case, probably a pattern of being a philanderer in his personal life. Right. That to me didn't discount him from being a strong president.
I agree.
So to your point, when these kinds of accusations come up, in this case, and it's the spouse of a presidential candidate, it's completely almost assumed that because of how that rumor mill is, you know, heating up, especially in our world of social media, it's almost an advantage then if these journalists ask the candidate so they can address it they can, and move on from it. And so like what she's saying is by having this like code of silence of like, oh, don't talk about that. That's off limits. Well, then that continues to fuel the rumor mill that happens now times 10 through social media. So I would want people to ask, and I would just say, yeah, so XYZ happened or it didn't. And then let's just move on.
Absolutely. The job of journalists that we have gotten so far away from because the industry is completely, it's dead, right? The job of a journalist is to hold the powerful accountable. You hold the powerful accountable. You are not the PR machine. And that's the problem with this cycle. With this cycle right now, no matter which side of the aisle you're talking about, they have PR machines. We know that Fox News is going to give Donald Trump and every other Republican passes. We know MSNBC, CNN, and the majority of the network newses are going to give Vice President Harris some free passes. And you cannot do it anymore. You cannot. So I need to ask Mrs. Harris, is your husband, is he, violent against women? Has he ever been violent against you? I would love to let's ask Donald Trump because everyone accuses him this. Are you racist? Are you sexist? Just ask the questions and then move on. Don't add your opinion in it. Just ask the dang question and let the viewer decide how they feel about it. Right. I'm tired of being told how I have to feel.
Well, especially because a lot of the politicians now don't give straight answers. And so that's what then continues to create sort of this circus around these narratives, because it's like, I don't even know how certain candidates feel about issues, because whenever asked, so much of the response is attacking the opponent. And I mean, for me, it's like, I just want to hear, what about you? Like, let's, opposition aside. And so if you recall how times have changed, Hillary and Bill, the Clintons, sat down for an interview where they directly...
Was this the Tammy Wynette?
This was where they talked about...
Where she was like, I'm not Tammy Wynette.
Oh, yeah, I don't have thank you. Yes. I couldn't remember the quote. She was more vocal and more outspoken and really defended her husband more than he defended himself. And so that speaks volumes, really, because in that situation, sometimes you have to question, like, was that marriage and did it continue one of, convenience because of the political power that they amassed? I mean, and it's sad because it's exactly what played out in that show, House of Cards, with Kevin Spacey and Robin Penn. Is that her name? Mm-hmm. Sean Penn's ex?
Robin White Penn.
Thank you.
White Penn.
The two of them, it was like a marriage of convenience so they could elicit and control and have all their influence and power. I hope that now, all these years later, I hope that the Clintons have come to a place where they are a more happily married couple, because I always thought that was sad, how Hillary being so defensive, it was an easy default for critics to then say, oh yeah, she's just an angry woman because, her husband cheated on her. And then of course, when she was running for office, I always felt bad for her, and we could relate to this because she just has that presence where she comes across as like kind of harsh in some respects. Then the default was like to call her the B word.
Of course.
When a man is deemed to be a strong, charismatic leader, if he has the same demeanor. So I always felt bad.
Well, and anytime a woman is called the B word, which any woman watching this right now, you have probably been called it. I mean, I've been called it so many times, it's like my middle name probably. But if you're called that, that means somebody has been affected by your boundaries, expectations, and standards. That's why. So I will proudly be called that, because is that all you got? Like, okay. I mean, I call myself that. I am one. So, it's just been really interesting. I just want to get back to journalism. I don't think we'll ever get back to journalism. I think that's probably why I have that tug to become a high school journalism teacher. It's there. I don't know if it's going to come to fruition, but it's there. And, to teach, you got to put your politics aside. And the other thing is, I'm not voting for my best friend to be in the White House, right? Now, granted, I believe that you need to be a good person. You need to have some standards about your life, and you need to handle yourself with some decorum. I need somebody who's going to keep me and my family safe, who's going to protect my money, and, and make sure that the American dream is alive and well, which it is not, right? It's not. When it's costing me right now probably $100 more a week to go grocery shopping than it did several years ago. And that's not a political issue. Those are facts. It's costing me more at the gas pump now than it did several years ago. Those are facts. That's not a political issue. I want where we get things in control, like when we're talking about our health, let's stop funding the big farms, right? Let's start talking about health. Let's start getting us healthy and go to the root of the problem rather than keep giving us medicine. And you keep giving us medicine because we're going to keep making the farmers, like all the big farm companies, a lot of money. But that's a whole nother episode I could get into. Those are the things I'm looking for, right? Whether or not I like you, I don't care. I mean, I didn't like Bill Clinton, what he did. I'm like, oh, you're a dirty dog. However, at the time, he was really good. Like, the economy was really, really good, right? So it's not what, you know, when George W. Bush was in office and it was after 9/11, I saw that man going through rubble looking for people, right? He was patriotic and he loved that country. And at that time, that's what I needed. I just needed a leader that was like, God bless America. I love this country. We're going to do everything we can to keep this country safe. I'm not talking about the decisions that happen after. Don't come at me for that. I'm talking about what I needed in that moment.
Absolutely. I agree. Well, and if you look at the way politics has changed today, it's really the machine, not the people, because everything we hear and our fire hydrant thrown at us on a daily basis, 10, 15 years ago, we just never had access to that much information that quickly. And so, you know, now you're going to scroll through TikTok. And as we know, if you're on social media, you don't have to, you know, in any way, shape or form, feel like you own and control the medium. It controls you, because we know that the whole system has been designed with an algorithm that sparks addiction and dependence. And so, you know, you need to only watch that social media documentary on Netflix to understand and hear from the horse's mouths. The guy who created the Facebook like button thought it was going to do great things. And now it's driving thousands and, you know, millions of people into depression because they're not getting the likes.
You know what? I wanted to talk to you about that real quick and to like segue into parlay into this, because back in the day, remember when we would didn't like somebody, what would we do? We crossed their picture off in the yearbook. Right? I mean, like we would take that marker and be like, I don't like her, and just do this. Now our kids, or even like it happens to adults too, it is the public declaration of the unfollow on Instagram. I'm not going to say unlike because unfriend, because no one's on Facebook if they're, you know, the kids are too cool. My daughter is only on Facebook to monitor what I post. Like I'm not allowed to post pictures of her. Like I get yelled at, but there is that public declaration that kids have to go through now that is like, she's unfollowing me, or they didn't like what I posted. They didn't like they're hating on me. And
ultimate and passive aggressive.
That is the ultimate in passive aggressive. I mean,
it's so sad because we as adults are definitely falling into that same emotional, psychological hole that you can, you know, you can suss out. Because
wow. Okay, she said I'm gonna suss out. Okay.
I don't even know what that means. That's something my kids would say. So here's the thing. I changed patterns recently, and it's been very good for just peace of mind. I no longer, and I was just talking to my friend Barb about this the other day, I no longer look at all the likes on Facebook or Instagram or any and all ability to react to stuff. I just don't look anymore. And I used to do it not just out of habit. You know, I would just look and see who liked or loved. Yeah. And the reason that I don't anymore is because what I realized is I don't want who does or doesn't like my stuff to affect my authentic response to them. I'm going to go on on my feed. I'm going to go on there and I'm going to like or react to or comment on a lot of things. And it's purely from a place of sincerity. Yeah. So I don't want to be, right. I hate the thought of looking at people's pictures and going, I'm not going to like that because she didn't like not mine. I'm not doing that. So I don't know how that's going to shake out on the algorithm, but I'm not reacting. I'm not doing a quid pro quo thing. I'm just not doing that.
No, because you want to be supportive. But the one thing that our speaking series and some of our success has shown us that some of the support from the people that we thought were genuine supporters has dwindled, and we have discussed that. So I will notice people who will go on like other things that, you know, if other people are doing, like if it's a motivational speech or someone and it's the same people who are like, oh, you're awesome, you're awesome, you're awesome, you're awesome. And then they're silent with us. But some people, they will congratulate us in private, but never do it publicly. Right. And when people do that, it's because they will never congratulate you or give you praise publicly because of the stuff they have said about you in private.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
And that is really hard for me.
That can be hurtful. I mean, and I do see that, and you know, where I'll see somebody commenting and it's somebody like I described who I genuinely like and have been supportive of and will continue to be supportive of. And then they never have liked or commented on anything that she and I have done. And so then there is that moment where you say, oh, wow, I didn't realize that person was so active on social media, because they never have ever, you know, given me any positive feedback. So I just thought that they were just one of those people who doesn't have time or who isn't really out there. And then all of a sudden, you see that they're like building all these other people up. And then you're like, oh, I wonder why I don't get that same energy toward me. And so, but then you can't, but we have to stop. And my son is the one who's like an old soul at 16 years old. And he said, Mom, you can't put like, you can't expect other people to act like you do. If you're being nice, you can't project that on them to return that kind of energy. And he's right, because
he's so right.
Well, because sometimes it might not be an intentional slight. And so why are we like overthinking about it from the perspective of we're not in these people's heads?
No. And, you know, and my husband
it's not, sometimes our husbands, remind us that there's no ill intent.
My husband is very good at kind of bringing me down, right? You and I talk about like, you know, where the kite, like they're the ones holding the kite, like come back down to earth, like relax. But my husband has always said to me, and it's whether it's professionally or personally, he said, Amanda, whoever wants to be in your life and our lives, we'll do it. He's like, just keep doing what we're doing. We're not living for approval. We're not living to be liked. We're living what's best for us and whoever wants to be involved. And it's
great advice.
But what has been the beautiful thing about our speaking series and being successful, and I don't mean to sound egotistical when we're saying, oh, we're successful. Like, we're proud of that. And if you're doing something great, admit that you're successful. You deserve, that's not being arrogant. That's being confident. Like, you deserve to, like, congratulations on your success, right? But what has been great is that it has weeded out. It has weeded out. And what I have seen as our nonprofit here is merging, which is, again, fantastic. I have seen over the years that my name, and as your name, right? Like, you know, when you live in the glass fishbowl, people come and ask you for help. Can you help me? Can you use your name? Can you use your page? And all these things. And I have helped a lot of people willingly, without pressure, because I've wanted to. It has never been reciprocated. It has never been reciprocated. And the sad thing is now my eyes are wide open, and I never want to be like that. I'm only going to help you if you help me. It's not like that, because I will always help. Anybody in need, I will always help you. But the strong ones need help too.
Oh, that's so true.
The strong ones need help too.
Yeah,
and
like
so
who's
it is
checking on you.
No one, right? And so it's, so now it's like all these people like who have called and I've helped. And when I needed something to help, when it was kind of like, hey, what am I going to do now that we're merging nonprofit? My job has been eliminated. Nope. I see you. Like, I'm done now. Like, I can no longer, because your loyalty was fueled by your own opportunity. Well, that was it. And your kindness was fueled by your the opportunity, your need for me. And so now, respectfully, I am exiting stage left. I'm done. I'm done.
I think too, what's been so surprising to us is there have been people recently that reached out that wanted us to help them in whatever area, you know, of struggle they're dealing with. And some of the people, I truly, I just don't think that they like me personally or you at all.
Oh, they don't like me.
I was surprised.
They don't like me. They don't like me, but they want my help.
You don't really like us, do you? Because reason being because of what you said, a pattern of just like acting like that we don't exist, or just like a code of silence. And so then I think I was just shocked, because I guess I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't realize like the person would have the cojones
balls
to reach out, because they would immediately think, oh my gosh, these girls like have been so far shut out of my purview, you know?
You cannot talk smack about me or Tara You cannot talk negatively about us and then demand that we help. Respectfully, no. Like, I'm not doing it. Like, that week, I think I called you and I was like, is Audacity on sale this week? Like, what is happening? It's just be a kind, genuine person. Like, you don't have to, it's just, that's what I have seen eyes wide open. And I always knew that it was there. And I always knew, because when we left television, people changed around us. People changed. But
it's not just television. I just said this yesterday. When I left my job with the schools, I had some coworkers that I truly thought were my good friends, people that I would actually plan to talk to and continue relationships with post my job with the schools. I couldn't believe it. I actually was stunned. I showed up at some events and some of these people, they acted like they didn't even know me. And I'm talking about, these were people who used to stop in to my office when I worked in the administration building. And I had that harsh, again, check of just what happened to us after TV, where it was like, oh my gosh, they 100% were only being nice or kissing up because at the time, being the PR person, I did have a lot of control because I could give a lot of people, I could help a lot of people with crisis communication, but more so, I had a lot of ability to share the good news. And let's face it, I mean, that bolsters somebody's career and reputation.
When they want
to,
well, you know, some people are only nice to me because they're afraid I'm going to write about them.
Well,
and if you know me,
I'm so tired of that happening to you, where people will call you and say, are you going to write about this?
Like, I don't think about you.
There was one administrator whose wife called you to say, how are you doing? And I just want you to know that such and such happened, and please don't write about it. And and I'm thinking, what are you you didn't even know.
I didn't know about it. I don't know your wife. Like, I don't know your.
It's so weird because what's so crazy about that is, it's like they then think that you're using that to like wield power over people.
I'm not
and
all like that.
You're doing is trying to give victims a voice if they've exhausted every other avenue. So I just don't know why everybody makes it about them.
Because it's easier to make me the villain. It's easier, and that's what everybody does, and I'm just over it, right? And if you think that I'm using my page to be vindictive, this is why I don't. I'm actually a good person, and I'm not going to defend myself. People who know me, you know me, right? If I would tell all the tales, I would ruin lives. If I would share what I knew, I would ruin lives forever. If the person who continues to talk about me, if I wrote the actual truth with the receipts and the videos and all of the things, their reputation, they would have to leave the community.
Right.
They would have to leave the community. But
because people don't understand the power of the pen still exists. It's now just morphed into social influence. So you have harnessed that influence. And so that's unfortunately something you can't buy. It's actually a priceless commodity. And so with great power, as the Bible scripture tells us, comes great responsibility.
Absolutely.
And the Spider-Man world of Marvel hijacked that verse. You are not going to be irresponsible.
No.
And you are not going to use that in a way that, as you describe, would be driven by vindictiveness or evil, because that's, some people call it karma. You know, what you manifest. Why would you ever serve up the kind of evil that you are well aware would only come back to you?
I would never do that. And I mean, have I thought about it? Yes. Have I thought about, because I have been hurt.
Human nature.
I have been hurt so badly, and I have thought about it, but it is the energy thing. And I'm into reputation management, not reputation ruin, right? I don't want to, people say, well, I've written about predators. Absolutely. Because their choices put them in that. And I want to warn people, and they deserve to be called out. I mean, there is a man who stole thousands and thousands of dollars from my husband and myself to build a deck. Thousands of dollars. This man is a pathological liar. He's all these things. I still haven't shared his name because I said, you know what? Let the courts handle it. Let the law handle it. I still haven't shared. So that's I'm not vindictive. I'm not vindictive. So please stop with that narrative. If you're one of those people, respectfully stop with that, because you don't know me, and it's insulting and it's tired. It's so stale. I remember a person that said, I just keep waiting. Like, are you gonna, like, she's gonna come for me and she's gonna write about me. Girl, nobody even knows your name. Like, no, I'm not gonna write about you. Like, if that's what you think of me, then you just nailed the reason that you're not in my life. If that's what you think about me, if you think that I'm gonna wake up and say, well, so and so said this to me today, and I'm gonna get out of here, like, bye.
I actually wish
I would
that we had more. No, I wish that we had more time and energy to devote to all the slights that some people think that you're executing. Because the fact is, if you're a working mother, in your case with 4 children, it is almost impossible to have the mental space to devote to all of the messy things. It's just, I sometimes, you know, like when we watch Real Housewives, you think, wow, all they had to do was get the glam squad to come in for a shoot. And then for us, it's like, we're juggling, you know, a lot of responsibilities being middle class, middle America women that are so different from what we see projected on TV.
I have a sweatshirt and I think everybody needs it. It says, God bless whoever's hating on me. Like, God bless you if you're hating on me. And if all you have time for is to hate on other people, to talk about other people, I'm going to pray for you. Because there's something, it's not me, it's you. Like, there's something going on in your life and I'm sorry for that. And I hope you heal. Like, go heal yourself. That's a good way to put it. Just go heal yourself. And I mean, we have just gone off on all the tangents. Yeah, we have gone very long today. And if Mary Jansen's watching on her way to work, I hope you put on some Whitney and you make it a great Friday, Mary Jansen.
Yeah, we have to give a shout out to people who have been in our corner and very supportive. And that's a couple restaurants in Waverly. Grumpy's Roadhouse.
Yes.
When I'm feeling like I want to derail my diet, I could drive up there and grab a giant pretzel and those fried pickle wontons,
my gosh.
and life would be sweet.
That.
The second establishment,
Frederick's. They have a Sunday brunch that is to die for, and they have mimosas if that's your thing. But go have a brunch. I mean, people don't brunch enough here in the Midwest. Like, we brunch on the East Coast, and that's, you go out to brunch and then you take a little nap. And the bridge where they are, downtown is still open if you're going up to Waverly. You know, there's many different ways to get there. So go, and they had to restore that bridge. And we do have, you have to go check out some clothes from Midwest Blessed Boutique in Cedar Falls. We are having a show there. That show sold out. I think it was like 13 hours. That show sold
insane.
out. It is a Christmas show, right? It's the week before Christmas. It's going to be, did I tell you this? Ugly sweater Christmas show.
I have to start looking for one.
I mean, you used to fold them. That was one of her jobs was at what? Yonkers.
Better Sports, where those holiday sweaters, when they came out, we were all in the fields getting ready for the...
I have seen, somebody had just shown the other day, and it was like Halloween costumes. And they were dressed like, I call her, Elaine from Seinfeld, in Christmas Vacation when she and her husband are wearing those tracksuits. Yes. And so I'm thinking, maybe we can come in those... the tracksuits, or we could be like Cousin Eddie with like the Dickies on with the white sweat, the cream. I'm excited. Like, it's almost time to decorate for Christmas. I'm 2 weeks away.
That's your jam. I know. Every time I think I go into a store, it's true that even though I too love Christmas, you see all the decorations rolling out and I'm like, come on folks, let's just do Halloween first. Okay. Just hold the glitter, hold the wrapping paper. I still would like to just see, the hard rock pumpkin candies.
Oh, well, my kids are trick-or-treating. I send my husband with the kids, and I'm the trick. Like, sometimes I don't even open the door. I put the bowl of candy out because I am inside decking the halls. And
oh my gosh, on Halloween night?
Yes, my husband comes home and with buckets of candy, and I need to get a picture of his face because he's like, oh my God. He's like, what? He's like, what? I mean, my kids are eating Halloween candy by the twinkle of the Christmas lights because I went longer.
It's such a short time.
Well, it's such a short time and it makes me happy. Like, and I get very emotional. It's good emotions. Like, I'm thinking about my grandmother and I'm thinking about my late uncle and all the things. Like, my husband's face, I think at this point I do it just to see his facial expression because he walks in and he is all like, he's got a lot of patience. That's why I sent him out to do the trick-or-treating. Cause I'm that mom, like, did you say thank you? Okay, bye, happy Halloween. Okay. And then you're like, so you say thank you, happy Halloween. Like, my husband has a lot of patience and he's genuinely friendly. Like, and he likes, but he comes home and I am,
I can't, we'll have to, on Faith and 4-Letter Word, you'll have to share some pictures of your Christmas decor.
Oh, I'm so excited. Like my whole house is like lit up, and then like it all centers around the nativity. I have like a nice, pretty, the reason for the season. But
it is the most wonderful time of the year, I think, for all of us. It's just a time of hopefully gratitude and grace, and then new beginnings as you head into the new year.
Gratitude and grace, yes.
And appropriately, that was your grandma's name.
That was my grandmother's last name. That's why it's weird that you said that. That's why it caught me by surprise. That was nice. But be kind to each other. The way you can empower people, just stop talking about women you don't like or men you don't like. Just
be like the men on Golden Bachelorette. Build each other up, even when Joan rejects you.
I gotta check out the Golden Bachelorette.
It's so good. It's great. Okay, have a great weekend.
Make it a good
See you
day.
soon.